Every game engine explained in 15 minutes. First up, Source, built by Valve, might be the most influential engine you've never thought about because you were too busy playing the games it created. Source made a bet on raw physics and its players, not on chasing the newest graphics. Its magic was letting people tinker and mod freely, but the trade was tech that slowly turned ancient while Valve crept along at its own famously sleepy pace, patching it once a decade. This is the home of legends, the mind-bending puzzles of Portal, the world-defining shooter Half-Life 2, and the competitive titan Counter-Strike, still ruling online arenas today. It was famous for feeling physical. You could pick up a can, stack boxes, and solve rooms with actual gravity, which was mind-blowing at the time. Counter-Strike alone still pulls in over 1 million players every single day, on an engine whose bones are 20 years old. And here's the quiet truth. The genius was never really Valve's plan. It was the modders who built Counter-Strike and so much more, while the promised sequel engine stays forever just around the corner. Always promised, never quite here. But here's the dark comedy. Valve promised a sequel for years. At this point, Half-Life 3 isn't a game. It's a religion, deeply believed in and never, ever seen. Fans still hunt for tiny clues, decode every cryptic tweet, and quietly keep the faith alive. But make no mistake about the money. Valve barely sells the engine at all. Source exists to feed Steam, the store that quietly prints billions. Why sweat building your own games when you skim a cut of everyone else's sales on the biggest store in gaming? The rare upgrade, Source 2, finally arrived, proving the old engine isn't dead. It just moves at the pace of a very patient god. So Source is a monument to what players can build, run by a company that would rather sell you other people's games than finish its own. Half-Life 3 isn't late. It's simply not how Valve makes the billions it sits on today. Next, Unreal Engine, built by Epic Games and the closest thing gaming has to a movie studio. If a game looks jaw-droppingly real, Unreal is usually the reason. Unreal made the opposite bet to Unity. Chase the most beautiful image possible, whatever it costs. You get film-grade lighting and cinematic scale, but you pay with a brutal learning climb and a monster machine just to run it smoothly. It's the muscle behind the biggest names. The global juggernaut Fortnite, the brutal chainsaw combat of Gears of War, and the gorgeous remake of Final Fantasy VII. Its superpower is photorealism, real-looking light, real shadows, whole cities built in days, not years, using pre-made pieces. It now powers real movies too, and the whole toolkit is free to start with. Serious Studios scripted in C++, the fast, heavy-duty language that squeezes raw power from every last chip in the machine itself. But that power has a strange price. So many studios chase the same look that games start to blur together, all that identical glossy sheen. And it is famous for being heavy, punishing anyone without a top-end rig. And here's the twist. Epic gives it away, then takes a 5% cut only after your game earns real money. Generous and very clever. Here's the twist. Epic barely needs your money for the engine. Every hit pays a small royalty, sure, but the real fortune is Fortnite, quietly funding the whole empire. The engine is bait to pull you into Epic's store and its growing ecosystem, where they take their cut of everything. It's not just games anymore. Hollywood shoots movies on its virtual sets, architects walk clients through unbuilt buildings, and car makers design in 3D. So Unreal is the undisputed king of the blockbuster look, powering films and giant worlds. But remember whose kingdom you are building in. Every masterpiece you make quietly strengthens Epic's grip on the whole industry. The Creation Engine powers Bethesda's giant role-playing worlds, the ones you sink 500 hours into, and then 1,000 more. Bethesda's bet is a world where you can touch everything, grab any cup, rob any house, and be remembered for it. The magic is that freedom, but the price is a creaky ancient core that's been patched for decades longer than it ever should have lived. This is the machine behind Skyrim, a game re-released so many times it's a running joke. The radioactive wasteland of Fallout, and the endless space of Starfield, worlds you can happily lose years inside. Its gift is depth. You can grab nearly every object, stuff it in your bag, and every villager remembers what you did. Fans mod it forever, though it's just as famous for its hilarious bugs. Skyrim has now sold over 60 million copies across, let's be honest, roughly a dozen separate re-releases. But those beloved bugs aren't charm, they're technical debt. Flying horses and backwards heads are the price of a foundation so old that Starfield finally showed the cracks for everyone to see. But the engine is ancient and famously buggy. Flying horses, characters folded backwards. Yet fans don't hate the jank. They've genuinely learned to love it. And here's the genius hustle. The real product is the mods. Bethesda ships a gorgeous broken sandbox, and a million unpaid fans spend years fixing and expanding it for free. Free quality control, free content, forever. And it costs them almost nothing. The unofficial motto, straight from Bethesda's boss, became legendary. It just works. It usually doesn't, and we love it madly anyway, every single time. So the creation engine runs on duct tape and devotion, held together by fans who love it. But that's the fragile truth. The whole thing quietly dies the day those modders finally walk away for good. RPG Maker is the engine that quietly launched 1,000 childhood dreams, a tool built so a kid with a story could make a real game. RPG Maker made a bold bet. Let people who cannot code build a whole role-playing game. Everything comes ready-made, which feels magical, but it means your world often looks identical to 1,000 others who grab the same default tiles. It hands you everything ready-made, pre-drawn heroes, pre-built towns, classic battle systems, so you never touch a line of code. Kids use it to build their first dream game, and a few of those grow into surprise hits. And people made real masterpieces with it. The tear-jerking To the Moon, the eerie dream world of Nikki, and a whole genre of unsettling horror games like OMORI that still haunt players to this very day. This is that instantly recognizable look. Top-down, cozy pixel towns that a million teenagers spent their whole summers quietly building, one tile at a time. It also quietly locks you into one shape. The tools nudge everyone toward the same turn-based battles and the same little tile towns, until breaking out of that mold feels almost impossible without a lot of stubborn work. It has existed since the 1990s, quietly shipping version after version, outliving engines 1,000 times more famous. And the real money was never the cheap engine itself. It's the endless stream of add-ons. They sell the base tool for pocket change, then charge you for tile set packs, music packs, character packs, on and on forever. It's genius as a trade. You give up total freedom, and in return, you get to finish. And a finished, tiny game beats a dream game that never ships. So the pros sneer at RPG Maker as a mere toy. Yet this toy gave us OMORI and Nikki, real masterpieces. Proof that tight limits don't kill creativity. Sometimes they are exactly what sparks the best ideas of all. Then there's Unity, the engine that put game making into ordinary people's hands. If you've ever played a game on your phone, there's a very good chance that Unity built it. Every engine makes one big bet. The giants chase raw power, stunning visuals, total control, but you'll spend years just learning them. Unity bet the opposite way. Pure access, simple tools, and fast results, so that almost anyone could ship a real game. It powers an absurd list of hits, the eerie beauty of Hollow Knight, the hand-drawn chaos of Cuphead, and the phone phenomenon that was Pokemon Go. The real magic is that it's genuinely beginner-friendly. You write in a clean language, drag pieces around a visual editor, and the same game runs on almost every device on Earth. It's free to begin, and a giant community has already built tools for almost everything. And here's roughly all it takes to make something move. A few readable lines of code, and your entire game reacts the very next frame. But easy for everyone has a price. When anyone can ship, the store floods with junk. Cheap copies pile up by the thousand. So unfairly, made in Unity became an insult, shorthand for lazy, even when a game is brilliant. Today, over half of all new games, mobile, console, and PC combined, are made in Unity. It is genuinely everywhere. So why give this away nearly free? Because the engine was never the real product. Unity's fortune comes from the ads it sells inside your games, and the paid services it rents you once you're hooked. Get them building young, and you earn from them for life. But in 2023, Unity tried to charge studios a fee every time a game was installed. Developers openly revolted, and its reputation never fully recovered. Unity is still everywhere, quietly running under half the games you touch. But its story is a quiet warning. When your whole empire is built on people's trust, you can never safely put a price on it. GameMaker has one obsession: flat, beautiful 2D, and it does it better than almost anyone. GameMaker's bet is speed for total beginners. Drag boxes together and skip the scary code entirely. You can ship a real game in a weekend, but that ease hits a hard ceiling the moment your ambitions grow bigger than a simple flat world. Its resume is stacked with legends: the soul-crushing charm of Undertale, the neon murder of Hotline Miami, and the gorgeous ruins of Hyper Light Drifter. The pitch is speed for beginners. You can literally drag and drop your logic, skip the scary code at first, and have something playable by tonight. It's quietly behind some huge indie hits, all running on one tiny lightweight engine. When you're finally ready, it opens into its own simple language, GML, built purely for 2D movement and the collisions that make little games feel real. But those training wheels can become a cage. Its homegrown language teaches habits that don't transfer elsewhere, so the skills you build stay trapped inside this one single tool. This is the classic classic indie loop. You build a tiny prototype, you test it, you tweak one number, and you do it all over again until it feels perfect. And you never really own your tool here. GameMaker has been sold again and again, from owner to owner. The price plan keeps flipping. Subscriptions appear and vanish, so you are always renting from whoever owns it this year, on their terms, not yours. Undertale was mostly one person, made in GameMaker, and it went on to sell millions. Proof that you do not need a giant studio. Still, GameMaker is the launch pad where legends are born. Undertale and Hotline Miami both started right here. It is the perfect first engine, a place to begin, just not the place most people stay. IDTech is where the first-person shooter was basically invented by a small Texas team and a coding wizard named John Carmack. IDTech bet everything on raw speed, making games run impossibly smooth on weak, cheap hardware. That obsession made history, but it also made a razor-focused tool, brilliant at shooters, clumsy at almost everything else you might want to build. It rewrote history twice. Doom in 1993 made 3D shooting mainstream, and Quake 3 years later made worlds truly three-dimensional. Modern Doom runs on it too. That impossibly fast, heavy metal carnage that somehow still feels better than everything chasing it. Carmack's other gift was sharing. He gave the code away, which taught an entire generation of developers how a game engine actually works. But this is a rocket engine, not a car. The tech is jaw-dropping, yet notoriously hard for outsiders to actually use. So almost nobody outside ID and Bethesda ever ships a game on it at all. Here's the beautiful madness. Doom now runs on everything. Printers, calculators, a pregnancy test, even a fridge, purely out of human spite. And these days, IDTech isn't for sale. It's a private weapon. It belongs to Microsoft now, powering their own Doom and little else. Those open-source gifts everyone celebrates came from Carmack the man, not the company that now owns it all. The point is, influence. Nearly every shooter you love owes something to a fridge-conquering engine from 1993 that basically built the whole genre. It ran brutally fast on weak machines, got shared as open source, and still powers the modern Doom games today. So ID Tech is the grandfather that taught the whole industry how a game engine even works. But the family heirloom is locked away now, a legend that lives on in the games it inspired, echoing through the whole industry still. Now Godot, completely free, completely open source, and run entirely by volunteers scattered across the internet. Godot made a purely idealistic bet. Be completely free and owned by nobody, forever. No fees, the code belongs to everyone. The price is a smaller toolbox and fewer shortcuts than the billion-dollar engines. Unlike the giants, it takes 0% of your money. No fees, no royalties, no catch. You keep every single dollar you ever make. When Unity betrayed its fans, thousands of angry developers jumped ship to Godot overnight. Its downloads tripled, and a sleepy little project suddenly became the underdog everyone was rooting for. It's completely free, owned by nobody, and light enough to run on a cheap old laptop. It uses its own friendly little language, GDS script, that reads almost like plain English, so clean and gentle that almost anyone can learn it in a single weekend. But free has a hidden price. There is no giant company to catch you when you fall. The ecosystem is thinner, and progress moves only as fast as volunteers choose to give their weekends. It's best for small, clever 2D games and scrappy indie dreams, the kind of stuff one person makes alone at 3 a.m., running on cheap coffee and pure stubbornness. And here is the beautiful, scary part. There is no business at all. Godot runs on donations and goodwill, not profit. It is a bet that a community can outlast any corporation. Noble, but nobody knows if it survives the day the volunteers finally burn out and walk away for good. The whole thing is run on donations, which is either beautiful or terrifying, depending on how much you trust strangers to keep the lights on forever. So Godot is the underdog with a soul, the engine that answers to no shareholder. Its whole future rests on a simple, radical faith that people building something they love can quietly outlast any company chasing a profit. REDengine, built by CD Projekt Red, is the story of one studio reaching for greatness and getting spectacularly burned by its own ambition. REDengine chased pure beauty, a custom tool obsessed with story and jaw-dropping detail. It made worlds nobody could match, but at a terrifying cost. Tech so fragile it could sink an entire studio overnight, and it nearly did. First, it delivered a genuine masterpiece, The Witcher 3, an enormous, beautiful fantasy world that critics called one of the greatest ever made. It was built for storytelling, deep branching choices, gorgeous faces, and quests that felt like real short films. The worlds are stunningly detailed, though that ambition led to a famously broken launch. Then came Cyberpunk 2077, one of the most hyped games in history, promising a living neon city, total freedom, and the biggest launch of its whole generation, hyped beyond all reason. And that fragile tech broke in the worst way. Cyberpunk's launch was a historic disaster, so bad that whole consoles were pulled from sale and money was refunded to millions. And it broke. The launch was a disaster. Comical bugs, crashing consoles, refunds, until years of desperate fixing finally made it the great game it always should have been. So CD Projekt did the unthinkable. They killed their own beautiful engine. Every future game now runs on Unreal instead. It's the ultimate confession. Even brilliant custom tech can cost you everything, so they chose to just rent someone else's. The fallout was so severe that CD Projekt is abandoning its own engine entirely. Future games will be built in Unreal instead. So REDengine is a gorgeous cautionary tale. Proof that ambition without stable tech is a trap. When even the masters of the craft surrender and switch to Unreal, that alone tells you everything you need to know. And finally, Roblox Studio, maybe the most important engine on this entire list, because it's quietly raising the next generation of game makers. Roblox made the wildest bet of all, turn the players themselves into the makers. Anyone can build and publish in minutes, but the catch is brutal. You never truly own the worlds you create inside their walled garden. It's not really one game. It's a platform where anyone can build a game, publish it instantly, and have millions of kids playing it by the weekend. A lucky few creators get genuinely rich, while everyone else provides cheerful, unpaid labor. The games are coded in a gentle little language called Lua, simple enough that a curious 12-year-old can genuinely learn it in a single weekend. The scale is almost unbelievable. Over 70 million people log in every single day, most of them children. Because you don't make a game here, you make a Roblox experience. It's their language, their currency, and their rules. And at any moment, they can wipe you off the platform overnight. And here's the dark comedy of it. Millions of kids build games for free. A tiny few get genuinely rich, and everyone else provides, let's call it, enthusiastic, unpaid labor. And here's the ugly math. Roblox skims a giant cut of everything. Millions of kids pour in unpaid hours. A tiny few strike it rich, while the company quietly takes a slice of every single sale the platform ever makes. Cynical? Sure, but somewhere out there a kid is building a hit right now, learning to code without even realizing how, and that's the exact way the next Unity quietly gets born, right under our noses. So Roblox is the most important engine for the next generation, and quietly the most exploitative. A billion-dollar empire built on the cheerful, unpaid labor of children, learning to build and to be used at the very same time. Every game you've ever loved was really just a tool, and a person stubborn enough to wrestle a whole world out of it.